Most don't even know their names, but they have been at the forefront of world control for centuries. And what should terrify you isn't just that they exist, it's how perfectly they've designed the world so you can't even accuse them. You can criticize politicians all day, you can mock kings, you can call prime ministers liars, you can expose corruption in police, media, pharma, and courts. You can scream about bankers, billionaires, elites. That's all allowed. That's free speech. But there's a certain layer above all that, a certain set of names and networks that sit behind the curtain. And the moment you even get close to identifying them, the rules change. Suddenly it's not debate. Suddenly it's not discussion. Suddenly it's bans, labels, smear campaigns, deplatforming, threats, community standards, and an army of trained parrots repeating pre-programmed accusations designed to shut you up without addressing a single fact. They've created a civilization where the highest level of power is protected by a spell, not a magic spell, a psychological one, a legal one, a social one, a media one. They've engineered it so that speaking their name makes you the criminal. That's how you know they're real. Because the truth never needs protection like that. Lies do. This didn't begin with modern politics. It goes back centuries, back to the rise of merchant power, private lending, and the quiet takeover of monarchies through debt. Because once you understand the simplest rule of human control, everything becomes obvious. Whoever controls the money supply controls the kingdom. Whoever controls credit controls governments. Whoever controls debt controls nations. Kings didn't rule because they were powerful. They ruled because they were funded. And when the funding stopped, their power stopped. So the system evolved. It stopped relying on crowns and began relying on structures. And that's where the genius came in. They didn't want to keep bribing individuals. Individuals die. Individuals can be executed. Individuals can be replaced. What they needed was permanent control that survived revolutions and wars. So they built mechanisms, central banking systems, national debts, permanent taxation, legal corporations, independent financial institutions, layers of management so thick the public could never reach the architects. And now, look around. Governments don't represent the people. Governments represent creditors. Your taxes don't fund society. Your taxes service interest. You are not living in a country, you're living on a debt plantation. And the masses still don't get it because they think money is real. They think it's gold and value and labor. It isn't. In the modern world, money is created out of nothing, lent into existence, and then repaid with interest that was never created in the first place. Meaning the system mathematically requires endless debt, endless inflation, endless extraction. That's why you feel constantly squeezed. Because you are. This is why war is constant. Because war is the perfect business model for this network. War doesn't just kill people. War prints money. War justifies emergency powers. War forces borrowing. War centralizes authority. War destroys infrastructure so rebuilding contracts can be handed out. War turns fear into consent. And the part most people can't stomach is this. Wars aren't accidents. They're investments. They're engineered, they're timed, they're framed, they're sold to the public with emotional triggers while the real beneficiaries count profits behind closed doors. That's the old play. Fund both sides, arm both sides, control the narrative on both sides, then finance the reconstruction. That's why the same institutions always survive. Empires rise and fall, flags change, leaders rotate, but the money network remains untouched. It's always there, like a parasite moving host to host, never dying, never starving, always feeding. And don't get it twisted, they don't need to sit in a room twirling moustaches. Control doesn't work like cartoons. Control works through systems, through incentives, through ownership, through infiltration, through placement, through compromat, through media dominance, through education conditioning, through culture capture, through psychological warfare so deep you defend your own chains and think it's intelligence. Look at how they've captured language alone. They've weaponized words. They've created labels to shut down thought. Extremist, conspiracy theorist, misinformation, hate, populist, anti. These aren't descriptions. These are spells. They are designed to short-circuit the brain so people react emotionally and stop thinking. It's not what did he say anymore. It's what label can we pin on him, because if the label sticks, the facts become irrelevant. They also hijacked morality. That's the next layer. The most advanced form of control isn't force, it's emotional programming. If they can make you feel like you're a good person by obeying them and a bad person by questioning them, then the prison has no bars. The inmates guard themselves, the masses police each other, friends report friends, families fracture, communities become suspicious, everybody walks on eggshells. That's not society, that's a controlled population. And through all of this, their greatest trick is invisibility. They don't appear on ballots, they don't appear in debates, they don't do interviews, they don't rule, they advise, they fund, they donate, they consult, they support democracy, they philanthropize. They set up foundations that help the world while quietly shaping policy, medicine, education, immigration, economics, and war. They do not need a crown because the crown is just theatre. They already own the stage. They built corporate masks to hide behind. Banking families became banking groups. Banking groups became financial institutions. Financial institutions became global partners. And those partners sit over everything: media, tech, agriculture, medicine, energy, defense, transport, law, entertainment. And because it's all fragmented into corporations, subsidiaries, holdings, trusts, and shell structures, the average person can't see the web. They only see individual strands. That's the point. Confusion is a weapon. They've also mastered controlled opposition. This is where most awake people still fall asleep. They think every rebel is a rebel. They think every movement is organic. It isn't. The network funds rebellion too. It creates the safe rebellion, the predictable rebellion, the rebellion that never threatens the real core. It gives you heroes who lead you in circles. It gives you movements that burn energy and achieve nothing. It gives you distractions. It gives you culture wars. It gives you left versus right, men versus women, black versus white, old versus young, vax versus unvax, straight versus gay, whatever it needs. Anything but rich versus poor. Anything but parasite versus host. Because if people ever unify across fake divisions and aim upwards, the game ends. So they keep you tribal. They keep you angry at the wrong targets. They keep you arguing in comment sections while they continue looting reality. Now read this carefully. This is why you can't say their names. It's not because they're innocent. It's because they're the one group the system cannot allow you to question. Because once you realize a small hidden network has been steering wars, credit systems, currencies, governments, media narratives, and public belief for centuries, your entire reality collapses. And then you're no longer manageable. You can't be led. You can't be sold fear. You can't be guilted into obedience. You can't be tricked into cheering for your own enslavement. And that's why censorship exists. Not to stop hate, not to stop danger. Censorship exists to stop accuracy. It exists to stop you mapping the web. It exists to stop you identifying the pattern. Because once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. Every crisis, the same beneficiaries. Every war, the same financiers. Every revolution, the same managers. Every collapse, the same wealth transfer. You're not watching history unfold. You're watching a script repeat. And the reason the masses never wake up is because the system doesn't just control money. It controls perception. It controls education. It controls what is allowed to be true. It controls what is acceptable to discuss. It even controls what people think they're allowed to think. So the question is this. If you live in a world where you can insult kings, mock religion, criticize governments, expose celebrities, and attack every institution under the sun, but you still can't name the real controllers without getting shut down, then who the hell is actually in charge? Exactly. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.